Jai Shri Radhe. So Vaishnav Uncle Jai Shri Krishna. Continuing with our stories of the 252 Vaishnava disciples of Sri Gosaiji with, on day 195, Varta 181. The story of a businessman from Gujarat to whom Sri Gosaiji taught the principles of divine love, attachment and addiction. Prem, Asakti or Vyasan. Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Sattvic disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Rajana. She manifests from Vandevi and is thus a personification of her divine loving sentiment. He was born into the family of a rich Gujarati businessman. His parents died when he was 20. He went to Dwarka to have the holy sight of Sri Ranchorlalji. Sri Gosaiji had at that same time gone there for the same purpose. When the businessman saw Sri Gosaiji, he realized that he was a great saintly being and wished to become his disciple. When Sri Gosaiji had had the holy sight of Sri Ranchorlalji, he went to sit in his betak. The businessman followed him there. When he got the chance, he requested Sri Gosaiji to accept him as a disciple. Sri Gosaiji recognized that he was a divine soul and accepted him into his shelter. Afterwards, Sri Gosaiji returned to Gokul. Part 1. Sometime after this, businessman Vaishnava came with a group from Gujarat to Sri Gosaiji. He entered Sri Gosaiji's presence, bowed to him and made a donation. Then he sat before him. Thereafter he spent a week or so in Gokul, having the holy sight of the Lord. Then he placed his heart's desire before Sri Gosaiji, saying, "O Maharaj, please let me sponsor celebrations for all of the 7 forms of the Lord here in Gokul, Sat Swarup." He gave Sri Gosaiji supplies, cloth and cash and asked him to use these in the celebrations. Sri Gosaiji arranged everything for him just as he had wished. He gave the Sri Thakurjis new clothes and offered them preparations made from the supplies. Then Sri Gosaiji travelled to Sri Natadwara, and this Vaishnava went with him. He had the holy sight of Sri Govardhanaji, and Sri Gosaiji dressed and adorned the Lord. That evening the Vaishnava came again to Sri Gosaiji and placed supplies, cloth and cash before him and supplicated, "O Maharaj, please let's celebrate with Sri Naji using these items." Sri Gosaiji offered all the items to Sri Naji. The Vaishnava's Manorat was fulfilled, and he stayed a further week or so enjoying the holy sight of the Lord. They returned to Gokul, and there the Vaishnavas honoured Sri Gosaiji and all his children. The Vaishnava honoured Sri Gosaiji and all his children by bathing their feet in saffron water, offering them donations and performing arati to them. He entered the inner chambers of the wives and daughters-in-laws and gave them saris and blouses. He then requested Sri Gosaiji's permission to go on a tour of the Vraja land. Sri Gosaiji blessed him and sent him on his way. When he had completed the full tour of Vraj, he came back to Gokul, bowed low before Sri Gosaiji and supplicated, "O Maharaj, through your grace I have toured Vraj and am now back. Now I have another spiritual desire to serve. Please help me fulfill it." Sri Gosaiji asked, "What is it?" The Vaishnava explained, "Please put me in touch with one worthy Brahmin to whom I might serve a sanctified meal. I shall feed him as he pleases." Sri Gosaiji replied, "Very well, then I shall fulfill this service desire of yours. Please do as I now tell you." The Vaishnava agreed to do what Sri Gosaiji instructed. Sri Gosaiji explained, "If you feed just one single Vaishnava who has been initiated with the Lord's name, then that will be equivalent to feeding 100 such Brahmins." The Vaishnava inquired, "Shall I then feed 100 such Vaishnavas?" Sri Gosaiji continued, "If you feed one single Vaishnava who has dedicated his life to the Lord, then that would be the same as feeding those 100 simple Vaishnavas." The Vaishnava again asked, "So what if I feed 100 such dedicated Vaishnavas?" Sri Gosaiji again explained, "If you feed just one Vaishnava who has given up their life to serving the Lord whilst following all the rules set down by Sri Acharyaji, then that would be the same as feeding 100 dedicated Vaishnavas." The Vaishnava asked, "Let me then feed 100 such Vaishnavas who serve according to Sri Acharyaji's rules." Then Sri Gosaiji instructed, "If you can feed just one devotee who chants the name of the Lord with much love, who makes Sri Thakurji's Seva very lovingly, who survives on what the Lord gives him without asking for anything more, fully satisfied and who owns nothing, then this would be equal to serving 100 of those who serve whilst keeping to the principles set down by Sri Acharyaji." The Vaishnava piped up, "O Maharaj, then I shall feed 100 of these love-inspired devotees. Sri Gosaiji revealed, "Oh, it would be very difficult to find 100 such personalities." The Vaishnava piped up again, "You have initiated hundreds of thousands of devotees. I shall go out there and search for them and then bring them here." Sri Gosaiji interjected, "If you find but one single devotee who is totally attached to the Lord, then know him to be equal to 100 of those loving devotees." The Vaishnava suggested, "Then I should feed 100 such devotees whose hearts are attached to the Lord." Sri Gosaiji again taught, "It would be more than difficult to find 100 such devotees." The Vaishnava spoke up, "O Maharaj, Sri Acharyaji Mahaprabhuji and you self have taken 60 lakhs of divine souls into your shelter. I shall go round the world and find some of them." Sri Gosaiji said, "There is one ultimate devotional position which I shall describe to you, but after that please say nothing more. If you can feed just one devotee who is totally addicted to the Lord and cannot live without him for a single second, then feeding them will be equal to feeding 100 devotees who are divinely attached to the Lord." The Vaishnava conceded, "Oh Maharaj, very well. I shall do exactly what you have told me. Please tell me where to find that divine soul." Sri Gosaiji said, "The one who has perfect attachment to the Lord is Kumbandasji, and Gajandawan is the one who is addicted to the divine beloved. Finding any of that caliber would be so difficult. I have now told you everything that is the topmost devotional position, and I have revealed it to you." Bhav Prakash. This story has revealed the levels of increasing rareness of the higher states of devotion. Of all the 4 castes amongst humans, the Brahmin is considered to be the highest. Above him is the Vaishnava who has taken initiation with the Lord's name, and thus taken shelter in the Lord. Beyond him stands the Vaishnava who has surrendered to his all and everything to the Lord. Above him is said to be the one who makes Seva to the Lord according to all the rules set out by Sri Acharyaji. Amongst such devotees, the one who serves with great love, always remembers the Lord, and who is full of loving sentiment, is the best. Why? Because love is the highest principle. The Lord can be captivated by love. Those loving devotees whose life is filled with nectar-filled divine love, and so are held as most superior. However, even beyond them is the devotee who is attached to the Lord and who has perfect faith in the Lord's form. For them everything other than the Lord seems futile and trivial. They have no interest in family life. Still, even beyond them is the one who is addicted to the divine beloved. They cannot bear to live even for a single second without their beloved. When an embodied soul attains this position, then their life's purpose is fulfilled. Sri Acharyaji has stated this in his Bhakti Vardhini treatise. An embodied soul is truly fulfilled when they reach the state of addiction to Krishna. This state of addiction is found in the devotee Gajandawan. That is why Sri Gosaiji instructed that such a devotee is rare. Sri Gosaiji is also taught here that it is better to feed just one superior devotee than hundreds of them. In feeding a large number of devotees, it is possible for the mind to get distracted, and then one's standards of service might be compromised. Therefore, it is appropriate for a Vaishnava to feed devotees in such a way that the mind does not waver and remains full of attention and respect. Then the principles of this path will be adhered to. Thus concludes Varta 181, the story of the Gujarati businessman to whom Sri Gosaiji taught the philosophy of love, attachment and addiction as progressive states of devotion. He was a recipient of Sri Gosaiji's grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. There is no end to his tale. Continuing with Varta 182, the story of a Brajvasi from Raval. Bhav Prakash. This devotee is of Tamasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Manohar Gop, who manifests from Vandevi and is thus a personification of her divine loving sentiment. Part 1. One day this Brajvasi came to Sri Gokul. He had an audience with Sri Gosaiji and supplicated, "O Maharaj, please initiate me with the Lord's name." Sri Gosaiji granted him this initiation and then asked him, "Do you live in Raval?" He replied that he did. And Sri Gosaiji further asked him what was his occupation. The Vrajvasi told him that he went to graze the villagers' cows, and Sri Gosaiji said, "That is good. Please do come here from time to time." The Vrajvasi replied, "I am now your disciple. I won't be able to come every single day, but shall definitely come whenever I can." Sri Gosaiji sent him off and he went back to Raval. Every day he would go out to graze the cows. One day in the month of Phagun, he and the cows went quite some distance and came to Chintaharan, where they wandered around the forest. At that place, Gulal, pink powder from the beloved's holy play, had been showering down, and the Vrajvasi had the holy sight of pink and white powders and sandal paste. He walked on witnessing the scene. He found a bejewelled water spray gun too. He bowed low to do it before he picked it up. As he looked at it, he decided that he would like to present it to Sri Gosaiji. He also gathered up some coloured powders, bowed to the place and returned to Rawal. He delivered the cows each to her own home and came to Gokul. He bowed to Sri Gosaiji and announced, "O Maharaj, I was grazing the cows at Chintaharan. I went quite far into the forest. A lot of gulal showered down, and I saw different coloured powders and sandal paste. O Maharaj, I bowed down to those powders and have brought a cloth dyed with them. I have brought some gulal for you." He showed the gulal and the cloth and gave him the bejewelled pichakari. Sri Gosaiji was delighted to see them. Sri Gosaiji said, "Come on, let's go there so I can also see." The Rajvasi was overjoyed and said, "Yes, Maharaj, let's go." Sri Gosaiji mounted his horse and set off. The Vrajvasi walked in front of the horse. The Vrajvasi stopped when he got to the spot where the gulal had showered down. Sri Gosaiji came there too and saw everything, especially the place where the coloured powders had come down. He rolled in those powders and gathered some of them up and rubbed them onto a cloth to dye it as well. He went back to Gokul. In the evening he sat in his betak and gave divine discourse. The Brajvasi listened to it. When the discourse concluded, the Brajvasi bowed before him. Sri Gosaiji said, "Please do not return to Rawal now. It is very late. Please get up. It's very late. Get up early tomorrow and go back then. Please partake of Mahaprasad now." He asked his attendant to bring Anasakari Prasad like Tor and Laddu, as much as the Brajvasi wanted. The attendant led the Brajvasi to the store manager and said, "Please give him whatever prasad he would like." The storekeeper did so, and the Brajvasi came back to Sri Gosaiji, who presented him one of his prasadi upper garments, which had become saffron-coloured and tinted with sandal paste. The Brajvasi was very happy. Sri Gosaiji invited him to sleep that night in the betak and also invited him to come there every day. "Keep me posted on what goes on in that forest." The Brajvasi said he indeed would. Then he went to sleep in the betak. In the early morning he set off for Rawal. He led the cows to graze in that forest and went back home with them at the end of the day. Every evening he came to Sri Gosaiji, who always blessed him. Soon the Brajvasi became aware of his own divine form, and he humbly requested Sri Gosaiji to grant him the Brahma Sambandha initiation, Bhav Prakash. In this way, his relationship to the eternal Leela would firmly be re-established. Part 1 continued. Sri Gosaiji then said, "Yes, I shall initiate you with the Brahma Sambandh tomorrow." He did so with grace and told the Brajvasi to partake of his prasadi leftovers and then gave him some packed prasad for him to take with him to the forest. Thereafter, when the Brajvasi returned from the forest in the evenings, he would come to see Sri Gosaiji and partake of his prasad. Sri Gosaiji made sure he was given a packed lunch before he went back to Rawal. Thus concludes Varta 182, the story of the Brajvasi from Rawal, who received Sri Gosaiji's grace and was an accomplished Vaishnava. There is no end to his tale. Jai Shri Krishna, Sab Vaishnavan ko Jai Shri Krishna, Aaj ke Anand ki Jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.